In the year 1973, the sun over the northeastern state of Nigeria burned hotter than ever before. The land, once rich with green fields and tall millet stalks, had turned to dust. Rivers shrank into thin lines of muddy water, and wells dried up, leaving the people desperate. Among the suffering farmers was Malam Musa. He had tilled his land for over 30 years, growing sorghum and groundnuts to feed his family. But for 3 years, the rains had been weak. Now, in the 4th year, they did not come at all. Cracks spread across his farm like the veins of a dying leaf. His animals, once strong, had become thin and weak. His wife Amina and their 4 children went to bed hungry most nights. One morning, after another failed attempt to dig a new well, Malam Musa sat under a neem tree, looking at his barren fields. "We cannot stay here any longer," he told Amina. "There is nothing left for us. We must go to the city." Amina wiped a tear from her cheek, but nodded. She knew he was right. They packed what little they had, some dried millet, a few pieces of clothing, and an old mat. They left behind their farm, their ancestors' land, and the graves of their forefathers. As they walked towards Maiduguri, they met many other families who had also abandoned their homes. Some were so weak they could barely carry their children. Others had already lost loved ones to hunger and thirst. The road was full of people searching for a better life, but hope was scarce. Meanwhile, in the open plains, the Fulani nomads also faced their own struggle. Their cattle, which were their wealth and pride, were dying. The grazing lands had turned to dust and the watering holes had disappeared. One of the herdsmen, Abubakar, had never seen such hardship in his life. His father and grandfather had always moved with the seasons, following the grass and water, but now even the great rivers were vanishing. One day, as Abubakar led his cattle southward, he met an elder who warned him, "If the drought continues, we may lose everything. Some of our brothers have already left for the big cities, searching for work." Abubakar clenched his jaw. He did not want to give up on his way of life. The Fulani had always roamed the land freely, but now even their movement could not save them. He knew he had to make a choice, to keep going in search of water or to leave behind his herd and start anew. As weeks passed, more and more farmers and nomads arrived in the cities. Maiduguri and Kano became overcrowded with people who had left their villages and grazing lands. Hunger and disease spread among them. The government and charities tried to help, but there were too many mouths to feed. Malam Musa found work as a laborer, carrying heavy sacks of grain in the market. It was not much, but it kept his family alive. Amina cooked and sold bean cakes by the roadside. Their children, who once played in green fields, now wandered the crowded streets looking for firewood or water. Abubakar, on the other hand, sold most of his cattle and used the money to settle in the city. He felt like a stranger in this new world. He missed the open skies and the sound of his cows' bells. But he knew that, to survive, he had to adapt. Years passed and the drought finally ended. The rains returned, but the land had changed forever. Many farmers never went back to their villages. Some who did found their homes in ruins and their lands taken by the desert. The Fulani, once proud nomads, were forced to change their way of life. Some moved into cities, while others found new lands farther south. Malam Musa and Abubakar met one day in the market. They did not know each other before, but now they were part of the same story, the story of survival. They sat under the shade of a mango tree, sharing memories of the past and dreams for the future. "The land was our home," Malam Musa said, "but the drought took it from us." Abubakar nodded. "We are like the wind now. We go where we must to live." Though the drought ended, its scars remained. The people of northeastern Nigeria had learned a hard lesson. Nature could be both kind and cruel, And so they continued, adapting to the changes, never forgetting the years when the land turned to dust and the rains refused to come.